Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis, sponsored by the RVMH Hall of Fame in the Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart, Indiana. I'm Tim Prister with Tim O'Malley and Drew Mentock. And, guys, we just came out of one of the more philosophical press conferences that we're going to have this year. It's understandable now. Notre Dame 0-2, coming off a bitter loss over the weekend right here in Notre Dame Stadium. Tim, where do you want to start?
Yeah, you don't want to get into the weeds if you're Marcus Freeman when you're 0-2, so philosophical is probably the way to go. My takeaway was I kept hearing the phrase too much, as in, are we asking people to do too much? Is there too much involved? I think that means behind the scenes, all those things are true. Drew and I had talked about on the walk over here, some opinions we had on that without getting in the weeds ourselves. I believe there might be too much involved with the defense and maybe not enough Marcus Freeman influence, and that might be the next step, as Freeman insinuated after being asked 50 times if he is going to be a little bit more involved with the defense. There's no way that's not true. He, of course, said, I get involved with everything that needs to be involved with my football team.
Considering there was a significant uptick with the offensive performance and the defense gave up 41 points, if he's talking about too much, it's on the defensive side of the football.
Yes, absolutely. And I even think the fact that he said maybe, not saying I have all the trust in my coaches, like I'm going to let them handle that and I'm going to do my usual thing. Like he kind of coyly said that. So I think you should expect that going forward, that he's going to be in there to address some of those things in the ball. And I agree. I mean, that's kind of what we saw from Al Golden, maybe to a lesser extent when he first got there, is, after his first year, he had to throw out 70% of his playbook or something like that. So it does seem based, rewatching the game, like some guys, in the secondary just didn't seem like they knew where they needed to be, and I think you saw a lot about that. The other thing he brought up a lot was consistency. Like, that's what, especially when it's two good teams playing each other, that's what makes the difference. And you saw, I think Notre Dame had the more talented team on Saturday, and I think they lacked that consistency because they'd make really good plays and then they'd make ones that give up an 86-yard touchdown that on multiple occasions they could have stopped it at midfield or sooner.
We've seen other defenses, I've pointed this out before, where guys in the secondary are pointing to each other pre-snap, post-snap. I saw a lot of pointing going on in the Notre Dame secondary.
Yeah, and it happens when you give up the points too, and obviously there's going to be people saw on TV, and maybe if you were there you saw exasperated players. Well, you're giving up 41. Those are 41 legitimate offensive points too. There wasn't a bunch of crap involved in that. I mean, Texas A&M drove the ball, as Freeman pointed out, 6 plays, garnered over 200 yards. Now, you could take that as an extreme negative, or you could look at it from a coaching perspective and say, well, think about how many plays we were more efficient on. The explosive things are the absolute killer, because if Notre Dame won this game with 6 plays that garnered 200 yards, they'd just say, well, go ahead and shut us down every once in a while, but we're so explosive we can handle it. So I do want to hammer home, and we're going to have a podcast on this as well. When you're 0-2 and when you've given up 41 points, you're going to see more finger pointing. What concerns me is what you see finger pointing in the play, not after the play.
Yeah, and that, like I've pointed that out about Jay Bateman, the defensive coordinator at Texas A&M, and there's a reason why Mike Elko took over the play calling on the defensive side of the football. Notre Dame,
that was bad timing.
Yeah, exactly. Notre Dame did do a better job against the run. That was Tim, you asked a question about what went well, since so much of what we did, was dwelling upon the negative. They did improve, Drew, the run defense, but as you said, Tim, I mean, when you lose a game and you have those explosive plays, the number of quality plays really kind of falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, you had the quarterback, Marcel Reed, complete fewer than 50% of his passes. They only gave up 3 and some change per carry. Usually if you see those two numbers in your Notre Dame defense, you think, oh, that's a great success. And instead they gave up 41 points. So I think that's a big thing. I think the finger pointing is a big thing. I asked about Jeremiah Love saying after the game, point the finger at yourself. That's another cultural thing that I also asked Marcus Freeman about today, where you need guys to hold themselves accountable. If they are pointing fingers and stuff like that, they're not going to get these things fixed. So he seems like he's really emphasizing that going forward.
One defensive player that we absolutely can say had a really good game on Saturday, Tay Johnson, came in. I continue to be surprised at his performance, because he did not have a lot of background at safety in high school. And a lot of times, a guy can be a great athlete, but you don't know how quickly he's going to adapt. I think he adapted pretty well as a true freshman. They preserved a year of eligibility, but man, that is a very active football player that I expect he'll probably be in the starting lineup this week because Don Schuler's out for the first half because of the targeting call. But I think that's a guy that they can really start building the next safety core around.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see if his freshman year of beginning at nickel moving to boundary corner and then spending a whole year at safety has actually helped him understand defensive football a little more, football in the secondary, because he is playing with clarity, and velocity, more so than some other guys are. You definitely might not have expected Tay Johnson to be the guy that jumped up and did that in basically half number 3. He played a little bit of a half in the Miami game. He's been a pleasant surprise. If you're looking to accentuate a positive here and you're watching instant analysis, you can go to Tay Johnson. So that's always fun when you're on too.
Definitely, and let's jump into the injuries, because there is an injury in the secondary. It occurred during the game. It was Leonard Moore, I thought it was a knee injury during the game. It certainly looked like one, but it's his left ankle. You could see that it was taped. He's listed as questionable, as is Noah Burnette, the kicker. He's got a hip problem. It seems like Notre Dame has a lot of problems with kickers. That was something, as far as injuries are concerned, that was something Marty Biaggi addressed during the preseason, saying that Noah Burnette kicked too much when he was at North Carolina, which led to leg problems. So presumably they pulled back on that, but he's banged up a little bit, so it's going to come down to Marcello Diametti or Eric Schmidt for the kicking job this week.
Yeah, and I think, guys, if Burnett's to miss a game, ideally, it's when you're a 26.5-point favorite, because they won't be against Arkansas, they won't be against Boise, they won't be against NC State or USC either, unless things really turn around. But honestly, you mentioned that I asked Freeman about strengths, and he kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit, because there's not a lot of strengths. And he mentioned, as you said in your tail of the tape, in your point after, they came out of the second half. The defense came out of the second half much better than they did in any other half of the season so far. You are grasping at small things, because my follow-up was, what can you turn into a strength? I don't know if the rush defense can turn into a strength this year, or just something that doesn't hurt them. They need to get back to what their previous strength was, Tim Prister. Number 1, number 4. That's the last 3 years pass efficiency defense. That's not what we've seen right now.
And I don't think that's going to happen. And you expect, Drew, a better pass rush, like with the way we evaluated the defensive ends going into the season. Pete Sampson from The Athletic put out some stats about how Notre Dame has done with a 4-man pass rush. And in 2 games, it's like they've gotten home or they've pressured the quarterback 7.5% of the time, which just isn't enough.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 1 sack in 2 games, even against those good teams, that's just not going to get it done. Some guys we really thought would set up like Bryce Young. I think I saw maybe him with 1 solid pressure on a spin move.
Later on in the game.
Saturday. But some of these guys that we really expected to go up that next level, or Boubacar Traore has had the only sack, but they're just not flashing in the way we thought. And Marcus Freeman also touched on we can't cater to one position group on the ball. We can't set up a good coverage for the secondary and then put the defensive ends out to dry or expose them negatively on the pass rush. But I'm kind of curious if he's just we don't have an answer, because when we cater to one, it kind of sets the other one up to fail, and we don't know what to do right now.
The offensive line did a better job in this game, but when you feed the ball to your playmakers, good things can happen. And obviously Jeremiah Love, his 23 carries was 7 more than a previous high, and that was against Virginia last year.
Yeah, and that's I'm surprised he had 16 against Virginia when I looked back as well to figure it out. But Jeremiah, that won't be what he gets against Purdue. But you could see maybe Jadarian Price gets a career high against Purdue, and you can get Jeremiah Love back to that manageable 14 range. I asked about the Wildcat, so did Eric Hansen as a follow-up. I think Marcus Freeman felt they did better than maybe people watching from the stands did, and than we did. I thought the interesting thing was I couched it as a short yardage tactic, and Freeman did say it's not only going to be a short yardage tactic. And then, of course, he's going to be coy, because actually Hansen asked, can Kenny Minchey be your Wildcat quarterback since he can run and throw? I think they might go with Jeremiah Love as your Wildcat quarterback as a runner with a blocker, as opposed to C.J. Carr.
Yeah, you probably need to do something different. I'm sure they have something set up where they will try to get the ball to C.J. Carr, maybe a backwards pass to him to let him throw. I don't know that you want him out on the flank running the football.
I don't want you running to his side as the blocker when you're when that's overloaded either. So that wasn't all on C.J. Carr, but no, I think there'll be a tweak to that. To that.
Drew, what else do you have?
I agree with the Wildcat. I think it was more successful for a while. They were, getting 5 or 6 yards. They got some success out of it. I think it really sticks out because on 4th and 1, they went to it at midfield and they didn't get it, and it kind of bounced outside. And there's a lot of questions about that, because that set up a Texas A&M field goal, which obviously came back to impact the game.
Notre Dame, you look at this opponent playing Purdue, and Notre Dame almost a 4-touchdown favorite. Barry Odom is their new head coach. Marcus Freeman talked about how hard they're playing, how determined they're playing. Notre Dame's obviously going to have to come out with a greater level of commitment and determination this weekend.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to ask Marcus Freeman the same question after the Purdue game on your defense. What is something you see evolving into a strength? He should be able to say something about the defensive line against Purdue. He should be able to say something about the secondary against Purdue, or just something holistically about the defense, because Purdue's going to be better coached. They're going to play harder than they did last year. They didn't play hard last year. Let's face it, they quit at halftime.
Yeah.
When Boubacar Traore scored, that game was over. That's not going to be the case this time, but you would like to see Notre Dame handle both sides of scrimmage in this contest Saturday.
That's it from outside Notre Dame Stadium. This has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis, brought to you by the RVMH Hall of Fame and the Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart, Indiana.